In this video, I'm going to talk about the best metal albums so far this month, in the month of July. In the past, I have been doing end of the month videos of the best albums, but I'm going to do this a little differently. I just want to focus on metal albums and also albums that I have not done a full review on. Although the ones that I have reviewed, I will give a mention at the end of this video. And this is only part one, since we are only halfway through July. So part two will be in about another 2 weeks or so at the end of the month. And I will be talking about 6 albums in this video. And at the end, I'll just give a recommendation of the 2 albums that I did do full reviews for. So the first album I want to talk about is Hiss by Wormrot. They are a grindcore band from Singapore. Fairly new band. They started in 2007. Hiss is their 4th album and has been praised in the metal community as being one of the best grindcore albums of the year. I will be honest, grindcore is not one of the metal subgenres that I go to often, but after a few listens, I did really enjoy this. This was due to the fact that they experiment with different styles throughout this album. If you're unfamiliar with this genre, grindcore albums usually have many short songs, very brutal, very fast-paced. Sometimes when you listen to these albums, it's kind of hard to distinguish like one song from the next, but on this album, it's not really a problem because they were able to make each song have their own unique flavor. So for example, this album Hiss has 21 songs, a runtime of about 33 minutes. Just the perfect length for this type of album. But throughout this album, they bring in some influences from punk rock, some stuff reminding me of the band Gojira. Sometimes they do clean vocals, and it's just a really good album. If you are a fan of grindcore, I think you will love this, but if not, I think this is a really good album to check out. You know, it just has a lot packed into it and a very short runtime. Next, I want to talk about Windows of Your Heart by Haunt. They're another band that formed recently in 2017. They're a new band, but they play classic heavy metal. They remind me a little of the band Ghost, bringing back that classic 70s and 80s metal sound, especially that new wave of British heavy metal sound, from the early 80s. They put out a lot of albums over the past 4 years. They put out 1 or 2 every year. And it's an album I want to talk about is Windows of Your Heart. The album has 10 songs. It's 39 minutes long. Some songs are cool here. So we got Mercenaries, the opening track, very fast paced, similar to almost like power metal, but just filled with heavy metal riffs. But the song is structured very well and it's very catchy. They use both the clean and distorted guitars, and the solo reminded me of a classic Iron Maiden solo. Another good song, Father Time. This one has some blazing riffs. Reminded me of those old early Ozzy Osbourne albums, something from the Bark of the Moon era. Another good song, Frozen in Time, has some really killer riffs, cool galloping guitar sound, and whole album is very good. If you like classic metal, definitely check it out. Next, I want to talk about a thrash metal band called Traitor. They formed in 2009 and they're from Germany. They have a sound similar to other well-known German thrash metal bands like Creator or Destruction. They play just straightforward thrash metal. This is their 4th album called Exiled to the Surface. The album has 11 songs, 40 minutes long. It's a good album. There's one song that I didn't really like that much, and that was the cover of Careless Whisper by George Michael. Now, not the first time that a George Michael song has been covered by a metal band. So, for example, Limp Bizkit did Faith, and the band Seether did the same song. But in the context of thrash metal, I didn't feel that it worked very well. But it is kind of funny. They actually changed the lyrics to "I Never Want to Mosh Again." Thought that was funny. But rest of the album is just very good. They have some really cool science fiction themes. A song called Metroid. I think that's actually about the classic Nintendo game, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Song about thrash called Total Thrash, and this one has Sodom and Angel Ripper, and just really great fast-paced thrash metal, very brutal riffs, lots of mosh pit fueled energy. The production is very good. The guitar sounds very crisp and clear, and the rest of the album is just thrash. So they don't really stray from this formula. They're not really doing any ballads or clean guitars, just very heavy music, and it's very well done. Next is the self-titled album from Cleanbreak. This is a melodic heavy metal supergroup comprising members of Stryper, Riot, and Quiet Riot. So they have James Durbin on vocals. He was an American Idol contestant. He finished in 4th place, but he later became very successful because he was one of like the metal singers of American Idol. He was in Quiet Riot for a few years. He did a solo album, I think it was last year. Then they have guitarist Mike Flint from Riot, Perry Richardson, and Robert Sweet from Striper on bass and drums, respectively. And the band plays melodic heavy metal, a little influence of like 2000s post-grunge maybe. Lots of heavy riffs, lots of catchy choruses. Opening track, Coming Home, this one has a sound similar to like 80s hair metal, a little mix of clean and distorted guitars. Lots of melody in the song. They get a little heavy at times with a song like Before the Fall, some really chunky distorted riffs, really cool galloping sound. Another song, Man of All the Souls, has some really cool clean leads. Really nice level of energy, and probably my favorite song is very catchy, called just Cleanbreak. It's like a self-titled song. The vocals reminded me of like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, or maybe Rob Halford, when he sings like in a lower range. So, that was pretty cool. The guitars reminded me of just like classic 80s bands like Striper and Whitesnake. So if you like melodic metal, definitely a good album to check out. Next, I have another German band called Torturized. They are a death metal band. They formed in 2001. Aftermath is their 3rd album, and they have more of a modern death metal sound. Their sound is very complex, very dense. They incorporate other types of sounds into their songs. So, for example, the opening song Caustic has some like haunting synth sounds, almost like a horror movie, but then it comes straight at you with some pummeling riffs. The pace is not always like super fast paced. They're not afraid to slow it down at times. The vocals are harsh and guttural, but sometimes they change it up. Sometimes a little more like into a black metal style vocal. They mix in different elements and sound textures. Then we got a song like Inversion. They slow down the riffs and they make very like almost like a heavy droning type of sound paired with like these faster drum beats. And this changes tempos as the riff go on. Ambient atmospheric stuff. They have some songs are short, but some are filled with different sound textures. Another good song, Maelstrom, very slow and plodding, has filled with heavy riffs, and this is more for like the death doom metal fan. There are songs like Nebula where they do get a little faster and they have some thick and chunky riffs. It's a great album from a band that's not very well known, so check it out if you like brutal death and doom metal. And I'm going to talk about one more band. They're called Atomic Symphony. So they're a new band formed in 2009. They're from Switzerland. Their 2nd full-length album is called Hybris. They are a progressive metal band, a little bit of like symphonic and power metal in there as well. The album has 6 songs, runtime of 42 minutes. There are a few good songs here that are, some are over 10 minutes, but the album does not really feel long. Just very good if you like the style of music. They have 2 instrumentals. The opening track called Overture, that's a short intro track, and then a longer instrumental called Metamorphosis. The lyrics are very fantasy-oriented. Their sound is complex. They have lots of heavy riffs, lots of orchestration. The songs take lots of twists and turns. They have some choirs in the background, some progressive keyboard melodies. They are a female-fronted band, so the vocals can be compared to maybe like Battle Beast or Nightwish. Sound is very melodic, and at the same time, lots of chunky riffs. They have some slow, doomier riffs at times, have some deep string bends, but there's some heavy stop-start riffs at times. They basically like have a lot going on in these songs. And I thought this was very good. Another band not very well known, but they deserve more exposure. So that is all. The only ones I failed to mention are the new ones from Municipal Waste and Derek Cherninian. I did full reviews of those. Those links will be right next to me. And if you want, check them out. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next